All right, everybody, welcome to this very special interview. Craig from Yes Have Some here, partnering up once again with our really good friends at the Ghostbusters Containment Unit Autograph Group, Matt Sanders, Tom Henry. They're here with me. How are you guys?
I'm
Great.
doing great. I
Cool.
don't know how Tom is, but I'm doing all right.
Good, good.
I'm
Yeah,
all
don't
right,
speak.
Craig.
Good, good, good. Uh, you can tell I'm a great host because I directed one question to two people. So just to let everybody choose. And our special guest this afternoon, all the way from California. I'm not sure which part. We're going to get into that. Will Deutschendorf, you know him from Ghostbusters 2. Still the greatest Ghostbusters movie, in my opinion. And hopefully everybody's looking forward to Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I'm just wanting to make sure that it does not exceed the glory that is Ghostbusters 2. But we'll get into that as well. Will, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I'm in San Diego, so it's a scorching like 85 degrees or something today, so I really can't complain. But for us, it's hot. This is a hot day, so I'm doing the best I can in my AC here.
Yeah, and this is for those of you listening to this, Will, you're in a you are a martial arts instructor. You are in some sort of, I'm going to say all the wrong words, so please don't get upset. But it looks like some sort of secret dojo or what? Well, where are you? That's what I'm asking.
Since in San Diego, we're not supposed to technically be teaching out at gyms right now, I am going to say it is a secret location, but we're just hiding in the business park out here in Forest Ranch. So luckily it's county and sheriffs really don't care if you're trying to teach martial arts out here. So they're not being too stingy about it.
Very cool. Very cool.
Teaching martial arts and pandemics don't mix, man. They don't mix at all. It's really hard to teach people from 6 feet away, but I'm doing my best.
Oh, geez. So you're open over there then?
Yeah, I still have a pretty strong Zoom class going. So, I mean, this is like one of the Zoom rooms. You can see it's like a private lesson room. But yeah, usually I've been trying to stay away from Zoom because I think Zoom's the devil. Good,
Oh, hey.
good like this, though.
I,
Good like
I
this.
don't disagree.
It's when you're, doing back-to-back 4-year-old lessons on Zoom. That kids weren't meant to be on Zoom.
Well, I'll defer to Tom for a second. I know that you guys have met multiple times, and Tom's going to tell us a little bit, I think, about what we're doing here.
Sure. Well, Will, it's good to see you again. Last summer we had a really great response. You were actually our first private signing that we had announced. And we were really happy to bring you to the fans and get, personal items and pre-order photographs, autographs. And so last year you and I had talked about doing it again. And so we wanted to work with you again and get some more of that stuff out there and definitely, help out a good cause. And so here we are, and we wanted to chat with you. We didn't have a time to chat last time, but you and I kind of did one-on-one, and we've been doing these interviews lately and just kind of getting things out there on the record, and people seem to enjoy it. So we wanted to have a chat with you, even though, your exposure with Ghostbusters when you were very, very little. You're still a big part of that family. So we're happy to have you here today.
Cool. And I really appreciate it last year when you guys did that for survivors of suicide loss. That was a big help to them because it's not an organization that people usually think about supporting, but it does make a huge difference having those support groups for people who lost someone. So I really did appreciate that. So I have no problem doing it again.
How are they doing this year with the virus? Is the annual walk still a scheduled thing, or?
It's a virtual walk, so it's like, so you know how it is these days. Everything's weird and novel, but yeah, they're gonna do. Gosh, I'm horrible. I should know the date, but it's coming up in the next month or two. And the reason I remember is it's like, well, you just basically like start a timer and start walking somewhere, and you walk a certain amount of distance, and you still have a team and everything. They still have a website that seems like it's like from the 1980s to support people, but yeah, I mean it's still going pretty good with Zoom support groups. It's actually nice because we've had people from all over the country jump on. So I'll be facilitating a group, and we'll get people from the East Coast, and they're just looking for something. So that has been one nice thing that I hope continues is these online support groups for people who are affected by, losing someone to suicide, because they really, it's not something you usually want to go outside, to a support group to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Absolutely. And yeah, and you kind of touch on it, just in a year like this where everybody reacts to the weird changing world in a different way. So I imagine this year specifically presents maybe even possibly a tougher than normal recovery from something like that. So really cool that you still work with that organization. And yeah, that was great that these guys were able to partner up with you and raise some money last year and get those autographs out there.
I'm still surprised people want autographs from me at all. So I feel like I'm one of those people where you've got like everybody and you're like, oh, but you know what? I'm missing this one person, So it's like, if I could just give baby Oscar, though, I'll have everybody who was ever in the, I feel like that's the level I'm at.
I'm not going to confirm or deny. It's interesting. Last year, we had a lot of the paintings from the end of Ghostbusters 2 where, they're painted like an old religious painting. We actually just did a signing with the gentleman who painted that. So he didn't actually paint you because the production replaced once they cast you and Hank. But it was kind of interesting because we had a couple of those that you had signed that came in and people had now the artist sign those. And I expect that the prints that we received are going to come back now, unfortunately, even though I just shipped them all out, to have you sign them now. It's just one of those things, Will. That's our hobby here.
It sounds like a lot of legwork. That's cool that you actually, take care of all of that, because I imagine a lot of people right now get excited thinking, well, at least I can still do something, for this franchise that I love, or this, movie series that I love, like Ghostbusters. So.
Yeah, and obviously comic conventions and stuff like that is not a thing either. And so for people who are collecting and building their collection, this is a great way that we're able to keep scratching that itch.
Right.
Will, I got to ask you this because I don't, the last time we talked, it's been a couple years. This has kind of happened since then. Are you aware that Oscar for the first time is available in action figure form?
I am aware. I got messaged by like everybody in the world on Facebook. So I am aware. I do not own Oscar. I feel sad about that. I wish I did, but I guess I need to get on that. But that's an exciting turn of events. I guess you can really just milk something for all it's worth when you start big Oscar action figures.
Now, I was disappointed that you do have to buy Vigo. It comes with Vigo, so there's no standalone tiny little. But now, Baby Yoda, we can bring back Baby Oscar.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Baby Yoda. I mean, come on. I'm not quite as cute as Baby Yoda's baby. But
that would be a fun video, some sort of sketch, like you going to various toy companies pitching Baby Oscar as the next big craze that's going to take over America in 2000.
Good idea. That would be very entertaining, I think. Everyone video.
So I wanted to ask Will, and I kind of asked you this briefly when we were signing, but obviously you were very young when Ghostbusters was in production. So the odds of you having any memory of that very slim. But I wanted to ask, did the movie at all impact you and Hank growing up? Like, was it something that was told around the dinner table at Thanksgiving, or was it any part of your childhood? Because for us growing up, Ghostbusters was a huge part of our childhood.
Right. I think for me, it actually made me somewhat reclusive and not wanting attention, because that was like always the thing. It was like me and Hank would be in a new class or a new team for sports or something. And then it's like, they'd find out that we were in a movie, and it was like always like this big deal. Like, what? You weren't in a movie. And then with that on top of like our uncle being John Denver, so parents were always like, oh, wow, your uncle's John Denver. And then it's like, wow, you were in a movie. And it was like, me and Hank really weren't extroverted, go out there type people. So all that attention for something like that, I think made me even more closed off to any kind of accomplishment I ever make. So yeah, to this day, I still don't really like I know most people, if you're trying to, let's say, pitch somebody on joining your martial arts school, you might like show them all your accolades and all your awards and achievements. And I'm like the exact opposite of that. I'm like, let's just see what we can do for you or your kid, you know, like
Right.
I really think that's probably the biggest impact it had on me as a kid, is making me hide even more than I think I already would.
So, I've seen a few interviews with you, and I know you've been in a couple, Ghostbusters EPKs or documentaries. When did you, come around to it? When did you realize that Ghostbusters was, I guess, like a part of you that you embraced?
I think it was like, I can't even remember because it was so long ago, but they had some sort of series where they would do interviews, for movie stars. And it was like a Where Are They Now type thing. And they interviewed Hank and I when we were in high school. And it was like, we got like $500 for doing it. It was like, I didn't know that was like a thing to get paid. So as soon as it was like, wow, we're getting paid to do an interview for something we did like 17 years ago, that's when I was like, this must really still be a big deal, like that anyone would actually care at all about baby Oscar. So yeah, I think that was probably when it really, occurred to me.
Yeah, that's really cool. Maybe because well, let me ask you this: what was your? I'm trying to think. So I can do math. 89. So you're probably born in like 88, 87, something like that. So what was your? Did you gravitate to any movie franchises, or like what was your Ghostbusters growing up?
My Ghostbusters was actually an anime called Dragon Ball Z, which shouldn't surprise anybody since I went to school.
Right.
That was what me and Hank were in. First, it was like Power Rangers. And then as soon as they came out with anime in the US, it was Dragon Ball Z. So that I was always into fighting type shows. So I think the big difference with Ghostbusters that draws a lot of people is it really is seemingly, other than Egon, a couple of ordinary guys that, you just threw something on their back and I was like, wow, all of a sudden they're a huge deal. And so anyone can relate to that, where you kind of just hope one day you walk in and everyone's looking at you like, oh my God, please help us. There's this horrible monster in the hallway. Who wouldn't want to have that kind of a role in people's lives? So I think that's the big thing about Ghostbusters, at least for some people.
I'm getting a lot of questions right now. The world wants to know, what was your favorite Power Ranger?
I mean, I have to say the Yellow Ranger, because my wife's Chinese. So
Trini. Yeah.
I never really made that connection, as a kid, but yeah, there you go. That's
That's funny. You knew. That's funny.
Back when I was a kid, I knew.
You knew. Yeah. I don't really know what to say after that, except for cool.
Silence, I think, is appropriate.
Yeah, I think that kind of hits onto something. So like you obviously were developing some sort of interest in like fighting or martial arts or self-defense very early on, and it's kind of pretty amazing though that you stuck with it. Like, because I know none of my interests as a 6 or 7 year old panned out, and like except for the fact that I hang out on the weekends wearing a dumb Ghostbusters flight suit. So besides that, like I wasn't able to make any money off of it, is what I'm trying to say. So the fact that you went into it and it's like obviously a huge part of your life, that's amazing.
Well, let's be realistic here. What I do really probably isn't too much different than what you do in the Ghostbusters costume. Most of the people I train are kids. In the U.S., that's how it is. So I kind of, laugh thinking of the very beginning of Ghostbusters 2, where they're, Dan Aykroyd, God, is it Ernie Hudson that's with them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're at the kid's birthday party, and I'm like, that's me. I'm running birthday parties trying to make ends meet with my martial arts school. I just like hitting people, but during the day, my day job is teaching little kids, character development type skills. So it's not too far off. It's not exactly the dream I had at 6.
Right. You thought you were going to be like in Dragon Ball Z. By the way, I know nothing about Dragon Ball Z.
All you have to know is how to scream.
There you go.
Remember, they scream.
Matt, I think that's our next business venture, is we should start doing birthday parties.
just hawking autographed 8x10s to children. That's hilarious.
After the new movie, who knows? You know, you might be able to
Yeah.
get away with that. I bet kids will want to have Ghostbusters parties again. There's still kids who are really into it.
Oh yeah.
There are.
Yeah.
Oh, do you-
Well, I mean, I'm assuming it's all kids who were forced to watch it by their, parents, and then they either stuck to it or they didn't. It's just like me making my daughter watch a show that I liked as a kid, or
Right.
playing an old Super Nintendo game. And sometimes
Yeah.
What about with the resurgence of the Karate Kid franchise and like Cobra Kai? Like that, I feel like that show has kind of a younger viewing audience. Do you ever see any kind of crossover of that, or do you look at something like that and go, that is so far from anything how it actually is that I can't even take it?
Okay, there's a couple of episodes of Cobra Kai that's exactly like what it's like to run a martial arts school. Okay, I mean, God, what's the actor's name who plays the main character? What is his name?
Ralph Macchio,
Ralph Macchio.
or the guy who plays Johnny Lawrence?
Johnny Lawrence. Yeah, Johnny Lawrence's character. But he like walks out to his two students in their school, that he got a big check for somehow from his dad. And he's like, don't you guys have any friends? It's like, that's what it feels like sometimes during a martial arts school. You're like, oh, this is great, especially right now during the pandemic. You're like, where are you guys' friends? So that there are some interesting parts that I feel like correlate. But overall, the choreography is just like you'd expect. It's like an 80s rendition, right? So it's super corny, but it's also good at the same time because of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's good stuff. Good insight. So did you guys have? We went to our Facebook group that has about 1,000 people in it to field fan questions, and I'm not even going to dignify those people that are supposed to be.
I'm trying to find one worthy of asking.
I think the one that I had come up with, which I don't know if you've ever addressed this, Will, is it interesting to you? Is it flattering or somewhat disappointing that it was canonized that Vigo's last name was Deutschendorf? They made that sometime. I don't know when that happened. I think maybe around the video game. They just made it part of it.
He says his full name. No, I love that. I think that's great because I don't know if you guys. I've mentioned this story before. The reason they did that was because my dad was such a pain in the ass on set. They did it strictly because he is a micromanager. He is to this day. He will still tell me how to run my own business, and I've been doing this for like 12, 13 years. So I love the fact that they canonized it because, for one, I think he even says it correctly. He says Deutschendorf, I think, in the video game, if I'm remembering right. I don't think he says it like the German version. Not that the German version's wrong. Obviously, that's the more correct way. Deutschendorf is like the right way to pronounce it, but everyone in my family's always said it Deutschendorf. So I think that's really cool. And then it's just nice because usually the name Denver gets so much more publicity when it comes to my family that it's cool to actually have something like that, like an iconic character saying our real last name instead of, that being like the biggest foreign thing. I mean, that's because of me and Hank. So there you go. We made that happen. And my dad's personality.
I actually have a story about your dad. I think it was last night. It was when you were on the balcony and Sigourney's kind of crawling out, and baby Oscar's standing up there, and they were talking about the harness and how below the balcony there was some padding and stuff, and your dad was on a good one to make sure that it was safe. And then when he finally felt comfortable about it, because you're in this harness and stuff, and he said to whoever was telling the story, "Yeah, I think it's safe. I feel good about it." But for a minute there.
Sounds about right. That sounds like him. Until he feels comfortable, he's not going to believe you.
So how did you and Hank get involved in the movie from the get-go?
So my mom was a part of this twin group, and from what I recall, they were, I can't remember who told her about it. She might have just seen it, but it was basically like they were looking for babies. And I'm sure I've mentioned too in other interviews that you can only have a baby on set for a certain amount of time. So they usually use twins, like in Full House. So they were looking for, I think, blonde hair and blue eyes, which Hank and I obviously don't have. And they actually even brought, I want to say, Sigourney Weaver and Bill Murray around for this. Like they wanted to make sure the baby wasn't going to just cry every time Bill Murray held you, which makes sense. I mean, I could see that happening in some situations. So I think it was like right after they met us. It was like that same day, like 30 minutes later, like they talk about sometimes with doing a really good, interview or whatever with for somebody for trying to get into a movie or trying to get a role. It was like they called my parents right away and said, yeah, they've got the part, which I think is kind of weird. I don't know why you would pick us over what you wanted. It's a mixed bag. Some people are like, oh, you guys were the cutest babies. And other people are like, I could see why you'd be possessed by an evil demon. Like the two different, I never get like a okay looking baby. It was either like you're adorable or it was like there was something wrong with you. You had a giant head. So I don't know what made them decide to pick us, but that's the story. They went around, but as soon as they got to us, that was it. They'd found the babies they wanted. Maybe we were just really easygoing. Maybe we just like sat there and did nothing, and they'd like clap and we'd always look. I don't know the qualifications you need.
That's got to be it. You probably were like, we're just calm.
Yeah,
that has to be part of it.
Yeah, you can't be like, I'm sure, a hyper child running around, spinning in a circle, not controllable at all.
But who could blame you? Any one of us would definitely cry every time Sigourney Weaver held us.
Yeah, I know every time Bill Murray picks me up, it's not fun. Not fun for me.
So I have a question that occurred to me, Will. I was looking for a specific image, and I found. I'll send it to you. It's pretty cool. It's you sitting on, or it could be you or Hank, sitting on Sigourney's lap, and Ivan Reitman's kind of like Gucci gooing or whatever. And as I was looking for photos, I started thinking back to like my own life. And have you ever had the moment, and Craig, Matt, where you bring over a girlfriend or your wife in this case, and your parents are showing the baby photos?
Nope. Keep going.
No, well, okay. So you have the moment in your life where you're showing the baby photos, and there's always inevitably a bathtub photo or a swimming pool photo. And I found a disturbing number of photos, Will, of Sigourney and naked baby Oscar, and how does it feel to know that like that particular image is out there?
Well, I've never really thought about it. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Yeah.
It's about pedophiles everywhere. Got a hard drive of Oscar pictures. I'm gonna have a hard time sleeping tonight.
Oh my gosh.
That has never occurred to me. I don't really know how to answer that insight you had there. It makes me very uncomfortable. I don't really want to be seen naked now.
Yeah.
So even as a child, I feel like that's weird. I do. Since you brought up like bringing over someone to like see your baby pictures and everything, my wife didn't believe when I first met her in high school that I was in a movie. We were dating for like a month and a half, 2 months, and she didn't believe it. Like, who would believe it? So I was meeting her. I'd walk to the high school because she was like hanging out waiting for her friends or something every morning so they could drive her to SAT prep. Again, Chinese. Sorry. But anyway, so I walked her up to my house one day just to prove, like, no, I was really in a movie. Like, that's the only time I can ever remember, like, being serious, because normally I didn't really like talking about it. But that was, like, the one time where I was like, no, like, this is going to help me get laid, God. Like, I got to prove to this girl that I was in a movie. So that was, like, my big moment was, like, bringing her over and, like, trying to find the VHS of Ghostbusters 2 back then.
That's so funny. I just imagine you have, like, a shelf of all copies of Ghostbusters 2, and you're like, it's got to be here.
Yeah.
There it is.
So
you will not I'm about to blow your mind.
Was she impressed?
She was, and she's always been very into babies. Like, I always think that when she gets older and retires, she's going to be like one of those old ladies that holds babies at hospitals or whatever, like they have somebody who just like volunteers to do that. That's going to be like her gig.
Okay.
So, yeah, dude, as soon as I showed her that, I was in. That was it. I locked that thing down.
That's funny. That's funny. That is kind of an interesting thing because, like, I know sometimes when you kind of bring up a good point, Tom, kind of. Sometimes it is fun to go look at old baby pictures, but I guess, you could always just throw on this very popular, very known movie. It was actually on AMC last night. It's on AMC like 3 times a week, but I was flipping through and there you were. I think it was you. It had to be. either you or your brother. Is there any? I don't want to steal somebody's question, but I know somebody had brought it up. I think it was Tom. Is there any way for you or anybody in your family to be able to identify who's who while watching that movie?
My parents say that they can tell. My wife says she can tell too. I mean, I have a bigger forehead than Hank. That's like what everybody says. But it's not like we're sitting next to each other in every scene. So I can't tell. I don't have a clue. And when I'm watching it, like, I screw with my daughter because we've watched it a couple of times, and I'll be like, can you tell who's who? And I'll just always tell her, nope, you're wrong. That's me, or vice versa. Because I have no idea. But my parents claim that they can tell. I would hope they could, But no, that's pretty much it.
Did they have a perspective on which one of you was a better baby actor? Like, have they told you any stories about your behavior on set?
No, my parents were always very good about not comparing Hank and I. So they always said that we were just both the best baby actors ever, which for some reason just has a negative effect on your self-esteem as an adult and as a
You know what's funny though? No matter what, your parents always have a negative effect on your self-esteem. This is what I've found out in life. There's no way to be a good parent, so you just do your best.
Yeah.
Your kids are going to hate you at some point. It's fun.
There's a good Christopher Titus joke where he's like, you love your first kid, can't believe you have them, but you're going to put some dents in them. And that's pretty much all the kids.
That's funny. Good stuff.
So, Matt, you have children. Have you shown Ghostbusters 2 to your kids?
I have not shown Ghostbusters 2 yet. They've seen the first one. Because, my oldest is 12 now. Well, Ghostbusters 2 is my favorite
movie. Jeez,
it's my favorite. But the possession thing is always scary. And Vigo is far more scary than anything. I mean, the villain in the first film is this massive marshmallow. This one is a guy who comes out of paintings and wants to steal babies. I mean,
the first villain is not a giant marshmallow. It is a goddess demon from another realm. I think that is terrifying. Especially considering my twin brother heard voices, I think that's a terrifying enemy. But possession, all right, I can see that for kids. That's not really what you want,
Do you have any? Do you know how? We talked about you growing up. Did you and Hank, you think, have the same experience with the film, growing up and later in life?
Pretty much. Hank wasn't really too keen on it, just like me. He didn't brag about it. Like, the only time I can ever remember him using it was to stop people if we were trying to get people to fill out something like a lead sheet for martial arts. We'd be standing in front of Ralph's, and he'd be dressed up in something like a giant police riot gear just to get people's attention. And he'd be like, hey, have you seen Ghostbusters 2? That's the extent to which he would use it. But other than that, no, he wasn't big on it too much. I always loved the idea of us trying to get into another movie though. Like how they have the new one coming out. I was hoping that I started a Facebook group years ago that was help baby Oscar get into Ghostbusters 3, which never took off ever at all. But Hank was doing that. So
I think in every Ghostbusters fan film that's ever been made, Oscar is usually the main character, because it's always the extent of the brainstorming meeting for the script goes, guys, what about this? What if Oscar became a Ghostbuster? And everybody goes, let's do it. Let's go make the fan film. So maybe we got to figure out how to get you in one of those, reprising your role. I think that's the goal.
I agree. I will bust out a yellow onesie. I'll do whatever it takes, man. Put me in Ghostbusters 3.
I like that. These Ghostbusters recruit the only remaining vestige of the original Ghostbusters, and it's Oscar, and he's just still wearing his onesie and hasn't
or hey, plot twist, okay, deeply psychologically traumatized baby Oscar. We could always make that film. It doesn't have to be, a direct sequel or anything like that. I'm down to mix it up a little bit.
Maybe like a spin-off, just some avant-garde silent film called Oscar.
Yeah, black and white.
Now we're talking. This is fun. Well, before we kind of get close to the end here, Tom, do you want to talk a little bit about the signing and what the containment unit's going to be doing?
Yeah, we're going to be doing pre-orders for photos like we did last time. We'll take send-ins as well. Matt and I have also been, Craig, you're not aware of this, but we've been discussing, something like a custom patch, a custom version of this, maybe using survivor to suicide loss colors and doing that 100% for charity, sell those patches.
We have a patch designed when Hank passed away.
We did.
Yeah, so that would be cool to use that one because I can't remember if we have the vector image for that or not, but maybe I'll shoot that over to you.
Oh, that'd be
It's already made. It might be
Yeah.
do something.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because we thought that'd be a good idea too. Now I think that Matt and I now we got to figure out how to get you in a flight suit, rocking a proton pack, so we can have that, that Oscar Ghostbuster image. I think that'd be a big seller. So maybe we got to throw that together too.
That I'm sure.
And then we'll, depending on what the situation's like in the world, we'll be happy to meet up or send items to you, however you want to do it. We'll make it work.
You know what? I'm not afraid of the virus right now. I'm a very healthy 32-year-old man, so I'm not too worried about it. And I stay away from everyone I care about who is immune compromised, so we can meet up and knock it out. Not a big deal.
Perfect.
Cool.
To me, Matt, you have anything to wrap up here?
No, I just want to say that I appreciate so much of what you're doing with the charities. And like Craig was saying, especially in this series of what I do in my line of work, mental health is such an important thing right now. And it's a tough season. And so I love the charity, and we want to support and do that. And we're just thankful that you would humor us collectors and be willing to sign some stuff for us again.
Awesome. Cool. Can't wait.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for spending some time, and everybody go get your Will Deutschendorf autographs because Will, you haven't done a whole lot of special appearances or conventions, so this is kind of your only chance to do something like this.
Exactly.
Unless somebody shows up at the business park that we're not going to talk about.
You can find me in the business park in 4S. That's about it.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.